beautiful souls. I am Valeria Maritza at Healing Through You. I am an infinite being of light, and so are you. Today, I have a special guest, Jocelyn Kelly Reid. She has been my mentor, and she has been my business coach. I have worked with her many times, and she has also worked with me for a long period of time. And I just want to bring her to you. She's amazing. If you ever need a business coach, she's the one to go to. She really has opened up my world as to what is possible, the things that you are carrying within your mind that you might think like, I can't do this, all of that stuff. Oh my gosh, she's right to the point, upscaling her business like a boss that she is. And I'm just so excited to bring her over here and have you meet her in my podcast. So with that, we are going to let her in, and I hope you really enjoy this one. Hi!
Hi, Valeria.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you here in my podcast. So excited to have you here. I already told the audience what an amazing coach you are for money. This is the money person, people.
Thank you.
Yay. So do you want to tell me a little bit about your journey?
Yes, from what
ahead.
stage? No, because otherwise I'll be talking forever.
Okay. Well, I met you about 2 years ago. So let's start there. I hired you. I hired you because I heard your voice. It was amazing. And I just knew I had to work with you. And I didn't even know why or how I was going to do it, because it was an investment for me. But I did it anyway. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, I have to work with her. And like my body like shaking at like making this investment on myself to, to have someone mentor me in my business. And it had to be you. And like, it didn't matter. It could have been, $20,000 back then. And it'd be like, okay, I got to find out, figure it out, like, but I had to do it. And you have been so helpful in my own business growth. I don't move as fast as other people, but you really have been so helpful in eye-opening and all of the things that you bring to the table. So yeah, let's start from around there.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. I love you. So I'm an intuitive business and abundance coach, and I essentially help women step into big, juicy, feminine businesses, really like align our energy with the frequency of wealth, learn how to play in the quantum field, learn how to play with money, learn how to, find the glitch in the matrix and doing things our way, and like having fun and creating the money we want in the lives that we desire, and just like not living on linear timelines and expressing the fullness of our gifts and our truth and all the things. And let me say, I started my business like literal day one was in September of 2019 was when I started. And then I quit my job that December, which is pretty wild. And it's so funny because, of course, the COVID hit right after that.
It's like the universe was telling you, time to leave, do something else.
Time to go, skip that drama. I mean, it was dramatic for all of us, but I'm so glad that I didn't have to be in a full-time job navigating all the managerial meltdowns and everything that would have come with. And it was a really important time for, women and of course men on the planet, but I'm mentoring women to step into our gifts and like really help the planet ascend in all the different ways that we do it. So obviously my skill set and my time and my everything is going to be much better served actually being of service to my mission than sitting in a full-time job that frankly anybody could have sat in that seat. You know what I mean? Who has the right resume. So yeah, that's where I started. I have a pretty wild financial journey. I actually had almost $100,000 in tax debt when I started. And then I say that, I went from 100K in debt to my first 6-figure month in sales was in year 2 of my business. Then, as you know, I stepped into, sustaining 6-figure cash months in year 3. So that was last year. And, I had a really crazy, like before this business, I had a really intense dark night of the soul for about 5 years. So I'm 39 now. This was like in my late 20s to early 30s, really intense psychic awakening. I had a psychic addiction, really codependent, really karmic toxic relationships, like health drama. It's just all the things all at once to really get me to wake up. And it took a long time because I was not in the spiritual world. I didn't know anything about coaching and mentorship and trauma and healing. And I'm always like, thank God for Louise Hay, because she's the first person that I found where it started to make a difference. When I had to have fibroid surgery, and I remember looking up the spiritual reason for fibroids, and it was romantic shame, which makes perfect sense for like the type of dynamics that I had been engaging at that phase of my life. So that kind of started everything. And I eventually left LA and I manifested the money to move to New York. And then I was in that job for 2 years, knowing it was my last full-time job. And ultimately I stepped into this.
I love it. And the part that I really love of you sharing is that you started in 100K debt, right? It's like, what?
Yeah.
Because I feel like, a couple of years ago, if I had been in that type of debt, I would have almost felt like, okay, it's hopeless. Like, what's the point even? But no,
Yeah.
it's like, here I am, and that it didn't stop you. And then not only did you pay all of that up, but now you have your wealth, which is like on the positive side. And that's just an amazing story of hope and stamina and believing in yourself, which is I think the main reason, right? Like you begin to believe that you are able to do the things, and you just do it without knowing the how, right?
Yeah. And the first thing I did was invest in myself in a place where most people wouldn't. And I always say, getting somewhere like where I am, you have to be willing to move in ways that most people won't move. Most people would have been like, oh, it's impossible, da da da. And the debt did feel like a brick, right? Because I started the business with that, and I didn't have a lot of money to my name when I quit my job. I probably had, I don't know, maybe $12,000 in the bank and no available credit and close to $100,000 in debt. And then I invested in a 12K program.
Yeah.
But it was like I had to go, I had to do it. And it's just so crazy because that wasn't that long ago. So let's say the first full year was 2020. Now we're in February 8th, 2023. My business has generated close to $2 million cash since then. Like, if I had worried about that debt, do you know where I would not be here?
Yeah.
And like, that is not, we have to learn how to create overflow and trust that the overflow is naturally going to eclipse out the debt. The debt helped us get wherever we needed to go at that time. In my case, it was my own emotional trauma, and it caused me to destroy my finances. And also when I moved to LA from San Francisco, I had no idea what to do with my life. I just burned through my money for 6,000 different reasons. But that's not the point. But the point is like making illogical moves to get where you want to go, because it's required. And successful people are just very good risk takers.
And I actually really like what you said, that, making irrational moves, because it feels like when I said like, oh, if I had been in that situation, I would have felt like, what's the point? That's the linear way of thinking. Like, if I make this much money a year and I have that much debt, how much do I have to save in order to pay that? And it's impossible.
Exactly.
It's impossible.
Impossible. It'll take you the rest
Yeah.
of your life. And in that situation, I was living paycheck to paycheck, making like very small contributions to the IRS per month. But you get the point. It would have taken forever. Now I've made almost $2 million, and 100 grand is like no big, I mean, I value it, but it's like not a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's because you're following your intuition, you're going, not the linear way that we have been learned to believe that that's it. Because, when I talk about your story to other people, and like, how amazing it is, so people who are still living in the linear way, they're like, yeah, that can't be true. like to me, it's like, what? It's so
But that's the
funny.
matrix programming, because the matrix benefits
Yeah.
from us believing that everything is linear. Because if otherwise, why would people stay in job? And I don't want to say, because there are people who are meant to work in the corporate world, and that's totally what they're here for. So this isn't a diss on that, but it's more saying that like it serves the matrix to fault for the people to just go along to get along, to
Yeah.
think that they can rely on the government to work 100 years to make crumbs, and then work harder and then do it again, and then work harder and then do it again, to feel like slaves to their debt. Like, our whole credit system is oriented around us creating debt, but that they don't really help you get out of, right? You have to like learn how to manage it in order to build your credit. It's meant to keep us prisoners. It really is. Because if people know how to generate wealth, basically just being themselves, well, you're not a slave to the system. Because if you have wealth, you're no longer a slave to the system.
That's right. Yeah. Amazing. I feel so thankful to have like
Well,
met
especially if
you.
you create it in aligned ways. Obviously, there's very high power people make a lot of money who are playing with some very dark energies, but they're not slaves to the system. They're the puppeteers of the system,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I feel so grateful and thankful to have like met you and everybody in the spiritual community that I didn't even know 3 years ago. Like, just like you, like it's like a new thing for me, but it's like it opens up your mind to what's available and what's possible without needing to micromanage the how, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just allowing all of that, all of the healing and all of the guidance that we're receiving from our higher selves, from the divine, from God, from whomever it is that we believe in, that, to just lead us into the easy path of abundance and joy and love.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me a little bit more about your spiritual journey.
Well, oh my gosh, it's never ending, never ending. Well, obviously, I can't remember, when did I first start working with you? I don't remember the beginning.
You work with me, I think it was about 2 months after I finished my the first time that I worked with you. Well, I hired you first, and I think it was a 3 or 4 month container, and I think a month or two after that, you worked with me for the first time.
Yeah. So obviously I'm just a spiritual being, right? And we all are. And it's really just having that connection to source and being able to follow our intuition and trusting energetics and playing in the quantum field and basically playing in the world that we can't see. I can't remember honestly initially why I was like to work with you, but you've been such an important like piece of my growth and just the I always talk about, healers who've come into my world, including yourself, who I call quantum healers, that, we're all modern day medicine women. And it's like able to help people quantum leap, transform, heal, like what is generations of work inside our lineages, things that came up in our past lives, things that came up in our familiar life, basically at the speed of light. Like it goes so fast, especially when you consider, the alternative, which for a lot of people is traditional therapy, and they've been in there for 10 years
Nothing
without really,
happens. There's no change.
they just been talking about their trauma every day, 2 days a week, and nothing changes. And then you get in the field of a quantum healer, and not only does everything just shift at the speed of light, but it's like you don't have to, like what I love about your connection, and obviously our connection, we're very aligned, is like I don't have to get into 10,000 details to figure out where something came from. It's like it's your natural ability to see it, you know?
Yeah, thank
And you
you.
have like such a special gift in that way. I remember one of our first healings, and I know you also did that, took my Women in Fempire through it. Fempire is my like highest level mastermind. And
I'm gonna join
that
that
was
one day.
you should join it. It's the
I am.
shit. It's so good. I love that commitment. For anyone who
Yep.
doesn't know, Fempire is my mastermind private hybrid for women stepping into 30K to 100K months.
Mhm.
And I had done my healing my birth story with you. I had a very traumatic birth story. And the way that and I feel like I'd maybe looked at it before, but my experience in your work and even looking at things I may have looked at previously on my journey or with other people or whatever it is like I am able to feel things no matter whether it was like something as long ago as my birth story or past life or whatever it is that you're saying that we're going back into. It's like visceral. It's like actually I get transported to another place in time. And as you know from the work you do, it's like when we're actually just able to like go back onto the timeline, no matter whether it was a past life, this life, literally sometimes you go back on a timeline of someone from your generation that's not even you and
Yeah.
still have the experience, right? It's like when you're able to feel it, even if you're not someone who sees, like sometimes I see things, sometimes I don't. But like when you're able to feel it, and then like to have your, power and like holding the space to actually like facilitate the healing in that moment. I mean, it's been fucking profound. Like it really has been. And, you know, yes, I've created a huge business and this is just the beginning, but as anybody knows, like in stepping into what I've stepped into and beyond, like you walk through portal after portal after portal after portal after portal to hold this kind of wealth, to hold everything that it comes with, to hold other people's projections, your projections. You see all your stuff comes up too, everything you're here to heal. I mean, it's if you don't have help, good luck to you. Honestly, I cannot imagine not having a healer. Like I always have business and money mentorship, and then I always have my healer, which is predominantly you. And can't imagine it any other way. Wouldn't have it any other way. I think not having it is actually sabotage. It's insane. I'm like, you don't quantum leap without focusing on that piece of the work, and not one time for 6 months, like as a way of life. It is literally a way of life.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you. Yeah. And you know, I think you are the one who's told me when I was in your container. What's it called?
The cohort?
The
Is
cohort.
that what
Yes,
I
when I was in the
said?
cohort. The
Yeah.
cohort is all about business and, you know, getting your stuff together and your plan, you know, like if you have no business, which I did not have when I joined. You're the one who told me that I was a quantum energy healer, because I was like,
Because I see it every time someone comes into my field who is, it's so obvious.
yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. And like it didn't really like register. Like I don't even know what that means, you know, like this is how it was when like you told me. And then I started like really leaning into it. I was like, oh, okay, that's what it means. Okay. It's like, but it's like that's what it means when we're doing this type of work, is that it's not logical.
It's
Not
completely illogical. You're basically a witch. It's like how I'm a money witch, you're a healing witch.
yeah. And I also like, I mean, I have been going through my own journey, and I remember specifically when I was working through that witch wound, that I was scared of the word witch. I was invited to heal the witch wound, heal the witch wound thing. I think it was October of 2020, and I was like, I don't want to go there. That's for witches. Like I was
Of
so
course.
scared. And of course I went because, you know, it was illogical and I just felt like I had to be there. And it was amazing. And a year later, I was like, okay, you know, like now I don't have that feeling of like witches being like something bad or evil, which is what the media has taught us to believe, right? And I think that's where the big wound came from. Like, you know, I don't want to be associated with that word. I don't want to be associated with, you know, what that means, because it's like supposed to be something bad. That was like the upbringing. So it took me a while and a lot of work to embody that and to be like, oh, okay, yeah, this is what it means. And it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
No, and the shaming of it, well, you know where it comes from. You know it comes from the witch hunts, right?
Yeah, of
So
course.
there's that fear inside your lineage of actually sharing your gifts. But also in terms of like the matrix, it's just the disempowerment of women, you know, and our divine gifts and our ability to tap into our intuition and all of the things were made wrong. It's so interesting to me how the world is so focused on women, and like every breath we take, every move we make, every way that we look like changing every 5 years and all this stuff, or being asked to change every 5 years. Like, do you mean, I mean, so much of just the media is focused on critiquing women. And I always remind everybody that it's like there would never be so much focus on us if we weren't powerful. There'd be nothing to break down. So there'd be no point.
100%, 100%, because the whole thing has been about suppressing women, you know.
Yeah.
And really, like, truly, if women were running the world, there wouldn't be all of this chaos going on, pretty much.
And obviously, men are affected by this too. I speak through the lens of women because of my line of work. And so obviously, that's where I'm best studied. Yeah, it's pretty wild. But I think the divine feminine ascension is also for men as well, because obviously men are also intuitive, et cetera. Of course, you know, we tend to weight more on different sides of the coin than others. But yeah, it's really important. So I'm thankful. I'm sure all your clients are that that you decided to walk it out and own it anyway.
Yeah, yeah, I did. It was, and it was not easy, guys. You know, like this spiritual growth is not easy. It's people like people see me, and some people forget the trauma I have gone through. Like people know me like from like the past, and they know like I've gone through like bad stuff or whatever in my own life. But they see me now, and it's like they forget that. It's like that didn't exist. They think like I have everything going, and like I didn't do anything for it. I'm just lucky or happy, and I'm like, no, like I worked through it. Like I had to do like really deep work that was not easy. It's still not easy, in order to be where I am and to show up the way I do and to do the things that we get to do and with the trust, right? But
Yeah.
it's interesting because I think somebody just said that to me a couple of months ago. They're like, we were talking about something that happened in my past, and they're like, oh, I forgot that happened to you. Hello.
Well, it's easy to forget because everybody sees the glossy, shiny end result, even though it's an end result in motion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always saying, like, you guys see what people are doing on the internet. You don't see who they're being behind the scenes to
That's
get
right.
there.
Yep. Yep.
And the
Amazing.
work is worth it because you increasingly do step into ease by walking through all of these growth portals. It gets easier and easier and easier. The portal might not feel easy, but what's on the other side is like, oh, hallelujah. I'm
Whew,
so glad I
got
did
the
it.
chills on that one.
The
The
truth.
truth's coming out. Amazing. All right. Um, well, this has been really amazing. Thank you for being here. Is there anything else you want to share? And also, obviously, tell people where they can find you. And then I will also put the links in it at the bottom. So if people
Yeah,
wanted
of
to work
course.
with you
I
as
mean, I
well.
literally can't recommend working with you enough. You are so psychic. Your gifts
Thank
are
you.
so powerful. And all of our healings, like I feel like I like black out in this way that is like, I don't even know what dimension we went to. They're just so profound. And I'm so blessed and grateful to have you on my journey. Wouldn't have it any other way. And
Thank
I'm
you.
also always like, wow, I'm so glad I do what I do. Because so many of the people that I've ended up working with too have also been clients or who also come teach in my containers and facilitate work. And so it's just so worth it to walk this path. So thank you so much for everything that you do. You know what else I loved? Remember when I did, what was it called? Was it Beyond the Matrix? Was that the name of
Oh,
it?
beyond the separation.
Beyond the Separation was such a cool
That was amazing.
offer. I loved that. I really feel like that solidified my energy and just dissolving fear. And really, everyone talks about that concept of oneness.
Mm-hmm.
And, sort of like the idea of, okay, well, if you saw, even for example, what sounds so awful, like the path a serial killer had walked and what happened to them and this, that, and the other, well, you would see that you'd probably be the same. Do you know what I mean? Just like different things like that. And it's so hard to like, we get it conceptually, but it's very hard to actually feel. And I remember just being able to see the world in a completely different way. And someone might be like, oh, well, what's the tangible value of stepping into oneness energy? And it's like, well, because you have to have that feeling with things that you want as well, right? It's so, yeah, but it's like you can't have it exclusively with things that you want if you can't feel it inside of things that you currently judge. You always
Yeah.
have to be able to walk duality to receive anything. And I remember even that because I think I think it was summer. I think it was
Yeah, I
last
think
summer
so.
because I remember it being warm. Because I remember we did one of the healings was like around the connection to nature. I remember going outside and just like seeing the planet in a completely different way. And
Uh,
I think too, like something else that it gave me was just this because of course you feel more deeply connected to what's around you. And it doesn't mean like now you don't have boundaries now, right? This isn't about opening yourself up to every dark thing, other people's trauma, drama. Do you know what I mean? It's none of that. It's just like a level of connection, a level of feeling. And you also like, I remember just feeling so much more, even just tuned in with myself. And obviously, we're going to create a lot more from being tuned in with self. I mean, this is what most people are missing, right? It's like,
yeah, yeah.
I'm sure you see them when they come into your world. You're like, how did you get so I mean, I know how, but it's like, we have been led down these roads to get so disconnected from ourselves. And then we're wondering where all the fruits are. And it's like, well, in the space that we play in, the paradigms that we believe in, everything comes through the truth of your own soul. So if you can't feel that truth, how are you going to create from truth? creating from truth is what's going to lead to the divine abundance that you're looking for. So we have to actually be able to get back to the truth of our own soul and unravel everything that was imprinted on us, literally from previous lifetimes, from this lifetime, from our lineage, et cetera. And you just have such a powerful gift for being the initiator for that.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, and I have forgotten about that, the Beyond the Separation. I downloaded that in like 2 days. Like it was just like giving to me, like this is something. This is something that is really going to help people embody, you know, that oneness, which is so important to understand, because we're so, as humans, we're so easy to point that finger outwards, right? And every
there's
time
the ego,
right, every time we
yeah.
point that finger out, it's really, you know, that's the wound. That's the wound that we are feeling within ourselves. It's easier to point it out. And Beyond the Separation really just merges all of that in and allows you to see that, you know, we're all the same, we're all one, we're all connected. So yeah,
It's the truth. And that was just, you know, something we were doing earlier. It just, I remembered. And now we do, you know, our regular quantum healing sessions on whatever is happening. And the thing I love too is like, I don't see you be always to quote unquote fix a problem. Like, I really believe in not being the type of people who wait till we hit the floor to get help. But it's like, if you're allowing yourself, like literally everywhere, business, money, healing, all the areas of growth, to just like let a layer come off, let layers come off, let layers come off. And also your work too. And I think this is something that all quantum healers offer that I love. It's not just peeling layers back, it's activation into new frequencies, activation into more. And I always say to everyone, especially like when we're talking about, you know, my mastermind, Feminine Magic and Money, which is like deep embodiment, feminine love, pleasure, magic, and magnetism. I'm always like, yes, healing is one side, right? Quantum healing is one side, but it's also quantum manifestation requires that like activation into new frequencies. And so when we talk about, you know, we've kind of heard generally in the spiritual world, this concept of like being an energetic match, right? And we're like, okay, that sounds weird. How do we get there? It's like, this is how you get there, you know?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And so your work really offers that. And that's why I also love like bringing you into, obviously, you know, for myself. And I know you see a few of my clients as well. And yeah, I just love bringing you into my world too.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for all of your own mentorship and everything that you do for the world and for women in particular to, you know, gain our power and learning how to create a business out of our gifts and what we have.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the go-to person here. Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for
And
being
then in
here.
terms of if anyone would like to get in touch with me, I have a podcast as well. It's all things business, money, feminine energy, all the things. It's really good. It's called Queen Flow.
I
And
was
then,
listening to it this morning.
oh, you were? Oh, good. I love the show. Everyone loves the show. And then I'm very active on Instagram. My handle is jocelyn.kelly.reid. And you can check out my website as well, which is jocelynkellyreid.com.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you,
And
Valeria.
I hope everybody really enjoyed this, and please check her out, check out her website and everything. And if you're needing someone to guide you through your business, Jocelyn is the person to go. Really, she really is. And she's not just a regular coach, she's a spiritual coach. So she will really tell you straight out like what you need and how to get that. Plus, obviously, all of the basics on how to create what you need to create.
Tap into magic.
Yeah, amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.